Hey everybody, welcome back to Jimmy is Promo, and today we're going to take a look at a couple tricks that you can do inside of the camera on your Samsung Galaxy devices that can completely change the outcome of your photo or video, and it could be as simple as a tap or a press and hold. Now, the two of these do completely different things, and one of them also gives you an additional tool to also improve the outcome of that picture. So this first one that we're talking about here is a tracking autofocus. Now, tracking autofocus, if you have an object that's in frame that either you're moving the camera around or they're moving around, you're able to make sure that you are getting auto tracked on them in terms of the focus. So the tracking autofocus keep the rear camera focused on the selected object even if they move. Now, if you turn this off, all that's going to happen is you're going to do a press and hold, and it's going to show you this little brightness bar that you're able to change the brightness of the image. But if you do a press and hold, that is the auto exposure lock. So it's able to lock the exposure that you are now about to take a picture of. Now, I have a bunch of different examples that I can show you. Now, for this first example, I just did a screen record of what I was seeing and what I was doing. So right now, what I'm going to show you is what it looks like if you change the exposure, because that right there was overexposed. I'm also going to show you if you tap on the screen for the auto tracking, you can see how it's always going to be right there, always in focus. It doesn't move around. Now, it is, quite bright right there, which means it's overexposed. And if I do a press and hold, it did completely change the way the image looked, but I was also able to change the brightness of it with this little bar right below. So if somebody takes a really good photo of maybe a sunset or maybe of the moon, or maybe they do it with the headlight of their vehicle, you can see that this is how they have done it. Sometimes people will just open the camera, shoot the button, and that's really pretty much about it, but you just completely missed out on how good of an image you could actually do. So again, this is the original, and if I press and held right there where it was overexposed, it's going to make it a little bit better. I bring down the brightness bar a little bit and makes it even better than before. Now, here is the tracking autofocus. I tapped on it once, I deselected it, and then I tapped on it again, and you can see that it is now keeping track with the truck. So this way, that is my object that I would like to have in focus during this entire shot. So if it's going to be video or if it's photo, whatever it may be, this is how you're able to get something that is moving to stay in the best focus that it could be. Now, with this one here, this is the example of a headlamp. So this is where the best thing I can kind of say as example is if you take a regular shot of this, it's almost like you have astigmatism. You're going to have all the blurred lines and all the little diamond shapes. But if you press and hold where the headlamp is, it's going to make it look completely different. So here you can see I'm pressing and holding on the headlamp, and now I'm pressing and holding over here. Now, maybe sometimes the effect and the look that you're trying to get is right over here if you're pressing and holding on a darker exposure. So again, if you're looking at a photo and you have some areas that are brighter and some that are darker, all you'd have to do before you take the shot is do a press and hold on the dark area and see if you like it better, or do a press and hold on the lighter area. And even if you find one in between the two, it will do a simple mesh of the two. So this is pretty cool because it shows you exactly where those LEDs are in the headlamp. Other than that, it could just be looking like a really bright light. You don't know really where it came from, but you can see it's around the edge with the halo and as well as the bulb in the center. So it's pretty fun to play with, and then you can change it with the effects of how much you would like of the exposure or of the light or of the sun to hit the sensor of your camera. Now, this is what it's going to look like if you take a regular shot of, let's say, the sky, but maybe you want to have something that's a little bit more extravagant, something that shows a little bit more of the colors. Now, sometimes you may look at the sky, you look at the clouds, you see a little bit of a sunset, you get that pinkish, reddish color like you see right there. But when you take the original photo, it just, maybe it's just overexposed a little bit too much. Maybe there's just no pinks, there's no reds, it's just some whites and some blues and some grays. So this is where you can go around, play around, touch around, if you're touching up over in this corner over here, it's going to be a different exposure than if you're to press here, than if you were to press here. And then also, especially with the trees, because the trees are a little bit darker. So again, let's just look really fast at what the difference is. This is what it originally looked like. And then bringing it down, this is what I would take a picture of it to, make it look a little bit better. Rather than going inside of an editing software to change the exposure after the fact, you can actually get it done with higher, better quality with the sensor and lens itself. So you can see where it's kind of changing how everything looks and the brightness with everywhere I'm touching. So this right here, this is the image that I took. So this is what it looks like if I just opened up the camera and I didn't really do anything. Then this is what happened when I pressed and held and I brought my brightness level down a little bit, because this is what it looked like more to the eyesight of what I was outside. With this one, my sensor was bringing in a little bit more light than what was naturally being seen. This is actually really what it looked like to me, and that was what I was trying to capture. And that's the nice thing about doing a press and hold for the auto exposure lock and then bringing down that brightness level to change how much comes in. And then it really comes into play when you take pictures of, let's say, screens with a bunch of light behind it. So with this one here, that, you know, look how bad and crappy that looks versus me pressing and holding and then bringing the slider down. So this way you can see all of the numbers, because sometimes it's harder to read all these numbers, but when you bring down that little line, that little brightness line of the exposure, this is the image that you can take versus what the original one was right there. Now that is just a horrible shot. Anybody who takes that picture doesn't know anything about photography. Here we go. Now you can see everything. It is nice and dark and you can see it all. Now this will also come in handy if you were to take a picture of especially neon lights. Now look at that. You can see the green pop right over here. I also got a little bit of a sunset going on a little bit back there. So I'm just kind of pressing and holding, tapping around. You can really see the green pop. I'm going to probably go over here with this red, and then you can see the red come out. So again, if there's different colors at different areas of your screen, you can make them pop out pretty good. So before, when I went to the green and I went to, you know, change the auto exposure and everything else, like you see how the red isn't really as red? But then later on, when I actually press and hold over the red because I wanted that exposure to be locked, and then I brought down the brightness to change it. See again here, you see how it's not as red, not like deep red? And then there we go, we got that brighter neon type color. So as you can see, there's a lot that you're able to do when it comes down to either a simple tap with the auto tracking, or if you do a press and hold for the auto exposure lock, and then that little line to change the effect. So with the auto tracking, if you want to track a little object or whatever, you do a simple tap, it's going to, you know, go along with it the whole time. And then you saw right here, you know, from the very get-go, even if I move the camera, it's going to stay in place. And then if I do the press and hold, this is where I can change the exposure and where the light source is coming in. And, you know, if I had the whole histogram, you'd be able to see the histogram of all the lights and where everything is kind of coming in with the brights and the darks. But that was pretty much every single thing that I wanted to show you in today's video. If you want that auto tracking on, you just have to go inside of the settings and you just want to turn it on. Now, if it is off, then what you're going to see is when you do a simple tap, it's not going to be locked. It's just going to be autofocus, and you're just basically focusing on an object or a person. But when you do the press and hold, you can see it's locked right there, the little lock icon, and then you can change this little brightness coming down. So you see again, it's locked. That's the auto exposure lock. This one is not locked. I'm just getting the auto exposure of whatever I'm tapping at that moment, and it can always change. But again, that little press and hold. And from this little tracking autofocus, I just want to show you what it looked like when you tapped it, when it was turned off. But here you go, you tap it, it's on. Now you're able to track an object. So hopefully you guys appreciated this simple little video, these little camera tricks. This is how you're able to get some really good shots on pretty much any Samsung phone. But hopefully you guys appreciated it. If you did, give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to hit subscribe. Subscribe on the very bottom left-hand side. And if you like this video, then more than likely you'll also like this video. And I'll see you guys later.